Getting the variety pack of roofs today. So first off, silicone coated modified bitumen. Up top, we've got coated EPDM, fully adhered. Spray foam roof. More EPDM and shingles. And so first thing we're going to look at this morning does that say blister? So I want to emphasize the initial marks are not mine. This is my first look at this building. I just got here. So looking at the installation, first thing I'm going to note, let's use a different color than they used. Of course they had to use the most common color. So, as we all know, my favorite, plating within less than 6 inches of every corner. So the plating of this is wrong. Now this looks like it was adhered to that insulation. We do have some pipe boots that look well done, but our walls are less than 2 inches. So that leads to its own issue. 1, 2, 3. So just kind of looking over the side, same thing over here. So the walls have no reinforcement along the edge, no underlayment securement strip of any kind. This is the tallest wall of them all. It's still not plated along the edge or anything like that. At least we have some drip edge on this area. Some of the others are a little lacking. So at least there's some positive notes here. Now this is a flat roof, but they installed a dryer vent designed only for use on sloped roofs. Then they use plastic cement, which is not compatible with the coating or with the EPDM underneath. Now you've got somebody here that's claiming that that is potential hail. That's not. So look inside that. So that's a bubble. That's a bubble that formed during the installation of the coating. And what it is, and I can guarantee you right now looking at it what it is, see that pattern right there? That's a leaf that floated into the coating. See? Just like that. Those leaves dissolve and leave behind that design. So that's a leaf. So right off the bat, that tells me whoever marked this up had no idea what they were doing. Excess coating. That's not a blister. That's a wrinkle from the installation. That's a wrinkle as well. And so that formed when they were doing the pipe. They didn't go around it properly. That is again debris. Over here you can see it was a roll-on pattern, and so leaves. You need to leave this stuff alone because they clearly don't know what they're doing. And so whoever inspected this, so scupper because of the square hole, canali on the outside, and it's a canali with a drain inside. So the idea behind this is that the majority of water should drain to there if that's properly sloped, which is not entirely. Then any excess overflows there. So it's a drain and overflow all built in one. Now, the problem with this method is that during a heavy rainfall, first off, most of it's going to go out towards the edge because it's not sloped properly. And so that's the main issue with this. The other one is that this makes it much more difficult during reconstruction. This can work very easily during the initial build, but during reconstruction, anytime they have to re-roof it, that's going to become a major issue that they're going to have to work around each time. So I'm just kind of looking around. We do have a lot of bubbles along the edge there. The plating's all incorrect. Now we do have some potential hail damage around that skylight and that one as well, but I'm not seeing anything up here. Now EPDM is probably the rarest roof to find hail damage to ever. You're far more likely to find it to any other system, even tar and gravel, which tar and gravel, many people, even in our previous videos, you see is virtually impossible to get approved under hail damage. And so here we have what's called a cricket. Now, not to be confused with taper. So you'll notice how there's an additional bump there, and that's to drain, that's to prevent any ponding water in the corner and push all that water into the drain there. Now, that is, taper is the whole system. So taper is everything from there to there that may be added to the slope. Crickets, sometimes called saddles, and we'll get over the difference here soon. Crickets divert small areas. So there's specialized sections of the roof, basically, either to get it between scupper and scupper, or sometimes to push it into a drain or around something. A saddle is common, much more common, and that's more when you have like a curb, a chimney, a skylight that you suddenly have to go around, as opposed to just diverting it one direction. The saddle more goes around. So that's the main difference. A lot of people use the terms interchangeably, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter if you do. Now we'll hop down there in just a second. And the smorgasbord continues, as I just discovered a new section on the back I wasn't aware of that has aluminum coated smooth modified. And I mean, you can see that this is years and years and years past due for a recoat. But it also looks like they didn't put a good even coat to begin with. So that's an issue as well. But that said, as far as the installation goes, as much as I would love to pick it apart, given how old this is, it's more than satisfied its expectation. So flipped over to the other modified bitumen section. This has been coated with silicone over top of the aluminum coating. So there are a few issues here. Number one, this type of particular silicone is not necessarily compatible without a prime first, which it was not. Number two, you can see the discoloration. That's because it's reacting to it. The bitumen is off-gassing. It is releasing it into the silicone coating, which is non-compatible, and causing it to come off. Now, the next big problem is, see how it doesn't stick at all? Now, this surface wasn't cleaned at all. From the way that looks, you can see all the bubbling, you can see all this. First off, this is getting ponding water. Also bad for this type of coating. Secondly, this area was not properly cleaned. Also makes the coating not work. And then thirdly, the original coating up here, the aluminum fiber, was not cleaned off first. So everything about this shows that the coating is not working. This has nothing to do with wind, hail. This is entirely installation related issues. What's more, so if we get up here, we notice that the original roofing was just tucked up under here as best as they could. It doesn't go up here, it just stops basically right here. Now we're on to the spray foam section of roofing. Now I will say this about spray foam. Spray foam has one of the lowest resistances on the market. It has multiple issues. And so on top of being very weak against hail, it will naturally deteriorate and start to open like that. That's just the coating coming off. Some animals like to eat it. And you can tell that somebody's already been here once before and coated over it. Now this has a silicone coat on top, and they've used silicone to seal it. That doesn't work. So if you put silicone on top of your foam, you're going to have to thoroughly clean it and put silicone back. Now that's a mechanical damage. That's something pressed down into it. Now you might be wondering, just how weak is foam? compared to other systems. So your average shingle at its initial installation is resistant up to 1.25 inch hail. Now there are some weaker ones, there are some stronger ones. A class 4 shingle is supposed to be resistant up to 2 inches when it's first installed. A SPF or spray foam roof is supposed to be resistant up to 3/4 of an inch. Not 1 3/4, 0.75, 3/4. So half as durable as a shingle. In fact, single plies for the most part have 1.5 inches and above. EPDM is well over 2 inches up to 4 inches, depending on the manufacturer, how much testing they've done, so on. Modified bitumen usually starts at about 2 inches when new. So SPF is already just verified by studies and testing the weakest initial strength against impact. In fact, it's so weak that there have been studies done, and there have been just mounds of evidence that some bird poop is enough to destroy coating or destroy the foam. And it's not just that the acids in the poop can eat through the coating and dissolve the foam, because that also happens. It's that the impact, the power of the impact of bird poop from certain heights can be enough to penetrate through the foam. And even when it doesn't penetrate through the coating, it leaves a divot under the coating, which leads it to crack. Which brings us over here. Now, hail damage tends to sit a lot deeper than that. This looks more like these kind of small impacts are usually, because you see there's no indentation, that coating is actually stronger than that foam. So for that to be cracked like that, your first instinct is going to be that this might be related to hail. But realistically, the majority of these are going to be misapplication, combined with just can't handle it. Now over here, that's definitely somebody dropping stuff from down or from up above. But these are weak points, so we're going to try to get these under hail. We're going to discuss it with the adjuster. Be honest with the process. We're not trying to scam them. We're just trying to help. And so, lots of previous repairs. You can see the original coating was white. That's super common for foam. Then it's got another layer that matches the other coatings on the roof. So this has already been resealed more than once. And judging by where some of the divots are, so you can actually here and there see some divots underneath this where it's sunk down, but then coating looks like it filled up the pocket. So that tells me this might have already had hail damage, more than likely already had hail damage before the last sealing of it. And so that's starting to crack through. And so that's what I'm suspecting is happening here, is that it had minor hail damage from the beginning. And now, after that second coating, it's all starting to crack and come through. And that explains the differences on pretty much every corner too. And so overall, we've got 4 systems here on this roof. And so we've got EPDM on 2 sections, and that EPDM has held very well. The only issues with it are related to the installation. We've got modified bitumen, both coated with aluminum fiber. That is good, just needs to be recoated and coated by silicone, which is bad, but it's not bad because of damages from an outside source. It's bad because whoever installed it put the wrong type of coating in a situation where it shouldn't have been used, even if it were the right type of coating, and didn't do the prep work properly. So in every way, that's whoever installed that, whoever maintained it, fault. Then we've got a shingle roof, which has some very, very minor issues to it, but I don't see anything bad enough to call hail damage, mostly just blistering. And so all those roofs survived, no evidence whatsoever of hail. And then you've got spray foam down here, which has older hail but it's already starting to crack and break open. Now, cost-wise, what is the advantages here? EPDM long-term is going to have the lowest cost out of all these systems. If you break it down year by year, modified bitumen is going to kind of be comparable to shingles. And so this is going to depend on where you live. If you live in an area with a lot of thermal cycling, where you constantly rapidly go up and down temperature, and I'm not talking like, oh, it's 70 during the day, it's 40 at night. I'm talking about when you live in an area where you have more than a 50-degree temperature change, a 40-50 degree temperature change. Those are the main thermal cycles I'm going to be looking for, not just the mild ones. Those areas tend to age shingles horribly compared to other areas. Areas with heavy hail, even sometimes heavy wind, but when I say heavy wind, I mean 120 mile per hour as like the minimum to qualify in this case. Probably about 110 actually. So in any of those scenarios where you live in one of those extremer climates, modified bitumen is going to come out better long term than shingles might. However, in regular, just calm climates where you don't get a lot of hail, you don't get excessive wind, you don't get those drastic temperature changes regularly, shingles will probably outlast modified bitumen. The problem is that shingles, as we've talked about before, can't be installed on a flat system, whereas modified bitumen can. And then lastly is foam. And so because foam is relatively cheap, it is self-insulating, so it's both the roof and the insulation built in one system, as opposed to putting on insulation and then putting on a roof. But due to the damages, I don't recommend foam anywhere with those temperature differences. I don't recommend it anywhere with a lot of birds. I don't recommend it on any coastal regions, anything where you're near the ocean or any salt water. That's partially due to birds. I don't recommend it anywhere where you have a lot of large birds of prey. I don't recommend it where you have a risk of trees falling on it or just even tree branches. I don't recommend it on any system where there's going to be really high humidity or a high humidity inside, such as a grow facility. Overall, I don't recommend this material just about anywhere, but if you're going to use it somewhere that's like a desert. That's about it. You use it in a desert where your main goal is to block out all the exterior heat, but you never get any form of weather whatsoever. Where even things like a hard rainstorm aren't that common. That's really the only place that this foam has evidence of long-lasting installations. Now, the funniest thing I ever heard was when a manufacturer was trying to convince me to use more spray foam. He brought in evidence where he showed a study that had been performed showing an SPF roof that had lasted over 25 years. But when you broke it down, when you actually read the evidence, it was showing how often it had to be recoated. And so you've got a roof that was constant maintenance the whole time.